Ladies, gentlemen, let the show begin. Alright, do you like video games? And I know you do. What about entertainment? We got that too. Video game, I'm not a video game. Video game, oh, what's the name? Video Game Armada. This is the one from the Gamer Boss Bronze.
And information on Bird True Backlash.
And Blue, First Lady of Media.
Coming back to you with another movie review. Yay! And today we talk, or rather discuss, whatever. We're reviewing the latest movie, well, I think probably the new most important movie for Marvel since now the Avengers, 10-year phase 1, 2, and 3 have been done. Spider-Man Far From Home. This is the movie is going to be the point man, as it were. It's going to show the people, us, where their heads are at for the next 10 plus years. And how did it fare? What did we think about it? Well, let's talk about that doggone story real fast. Backlash, if you would.
I will be glad to. So, now, there's a big part of this movie that might be seen as a spoiler. Bronze, permission to talk about a driving point in the movie that is definitely a spoiler if you didn't watch Endgame.
Oh, you mean Iron Man's dead, Captain America's dead, the sentient robot that shouldn't be is dead, right?
Don't hold back, Bronze.
Well, yes.
It's been long enough.
So you pretty much answered that. Vision is dead. Well, he stayed dead from the Avengers Infinity War. Natasha is dead. Captain America is either dead, dying, or quietly living the rest of his life. But everyone thinks he's dead on the first record. And most importantly, not that their deaths are... His death is the most important, except for saving the universe from freaking Thanos. Iron Man is dead. And the reason it's so important, because it is a driving point in this movie, because Peter is having survivor's guilt about Tony giving up his life to save everyone and returning the world to what it was. To top it all off, feels like he has some big shoes to fill. And he has to take Iron Man's place. That's a protector of New York. Protector of New York, and without him and Cap, and the rest of the Avengers weren't necessarily like New York heroes per se. You have Doctor Strange still, but he does magic stuff. But so, Spider-Man's feeling it. To top it all off, the beginning of the movie explains that everyone who disappeared could do the blip, not the decimation, not the snap, the blip. If they were in Midtown High, they had to redo their whole semester when they got blipped in the first place.
Now, for definition, can you define blip?
Yeah, so the blip is a snap, and by that I mean the snap is a decimation. By that I mean when Thanos snapped at the end of Infinity War, half the universe, let alone half of Midtown High and New York and the world, disappeared.
Which, by the way, all of these names are stupid.
Yeah.
I could have come up with a much better name for the tragic cosmic events where all life was reduced by half.
As we know it.
But I think you're having fun with the blip. Let's get that out of the way, because people started calling it the snap pretty quickly. But ultimately, most of Peter's class from the movie Spider-Man, we don't know about Liz Allen because she never appears in the movie, but then she moved at the end of it. They were affected. There is this one kid who's in the movie named Brad who was one of the survivors of the blip, snap, whatever, and he's part of the movie, but we'll get back to him in a sec. Well, when we talk about the movie. But everyone else, they're just returning to normal lives, and they finished their semester, their year, which is implied that this is 9 months at the very least after Endgame, after the world was saved from Thanos by Iron Man. So,
Which, by the way, not to cut you or interrupt you, man, if you watched your history, they could have really not have had Iron Man die, if you haven't watched your Hissy, you should go watch your Hissy and say, you know what, that makes a lot of sense.
What's Hissy?
You tell me what Hissy is.
What's the acronym stand for? What I'm saying?
How the movie should have ended.
Yeah, how it should have ended. That's what we want to go to. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I was just saying, if they watched how the movie should have ended, they would have realized that Iron Man didn't need to die. It's a little funny thing, but I like them. I strongly recommend you watch them. Like most things that I watch and get turned on to, it was Backlash's fault. So blame him if you don't like me, free advertising the guy. Okay.
Well, so I mean, there's a couple of scenarios where Tony couldn't have died, but this is something that Marvel, in a meta-contextual level, felt like they needed to happen.
Well, it was really more Robert Downey Jr. than anyone.
That's true.
He just no longer wanted to do the role, and he only signed on to the last two projects under the conditions that at some point in time it would be an end game for him.
Like Sigourney Weaver.
And James Sean Connery Bond. I mean, the list goes on. People reach these magnificent heights in these
Bill Murray.
roles. Absolutely.
Oh, Bill Murray.
That we absolutely adore these people in these roles, but for some reason, they no longer feel that is their destiny. They feel that they want to go outside of that limited space, even though it has brought them tremendous success, and they want to turn their backs on their fans, etc. Not throwing shade.
It's a very odd choice. If I was Iron Man or Ghostbusters, maybe not Sigourney Weaver, but maybe the male counterpart of one, I'd be playing that as long as they would have me.
And mind you, I get the idea that some of these roles can be very physically challenging, and when you get to be a certain age, you no longer wish to participate in that way. But, there's many roles that one could have. We saw a movie trailer today for Terminator, which I'm not going to go off on that. But there was a person in the movie trailer a couple people actually blew my mind to see them, and they're old as dirt.
What about the Fast and the Furious one?
Yeah.
You're talking about Hobbs and Shaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Not to say they're those
that old, but the idea, yeah. I mean, so, I think Endgame, even the title itself was more suited because that indeed was a franchise that had Robert Downey Jr. not been Iron Man, who knows where it would have actually went. So in essence, I believe he basically began that series in that way, that movie genre, kicked it up a notch, and so now he's done. So the Endgame, I think that name even was representative of his feelings. So sorry, Backlash.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of Iron Man talk here because this movie, it has its DNA with Tony Stark and Iron Man, and we'll get back to that in a second. Meanwhile, to cap off one of the last things they do this semester, Peter and his class, which includes his Robin to his Batman, Ned Leeds, MJ, the girl he's crushing on, Brad, remember him? We just mentioned him. Flash Thompson, and one of the student newscasters, Betty Brant, who, funny enough, her and Ned have a relationship overseas, along with some other kids, including two teachers. The teacher from the last movie who was in the elevator scene from the first movie in Washington Monument, and J.B. frickin' Smoove, who's a scientist who believes in witches. They go to have this European trip. Peter has it planned out. He wants to profess his love to MJ, but then Brad has the hots for her too, so that's one kink in the plan. I say one kink because S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to talk to Peter Parker. Peter Parker is ghosting them, even though Happy Hogan says, don't ghost them, don't ignore Nick Fury. He ignores Nick Fury. Eventually Nick Fury catches up with him because Spider-Man is needed to assist a S.H.I.E.L.D. ally named Quentin Beck. Now, I'm not going to name Quentin Beck's comic book alias because that might be a spoiler. But anyway, Quentin Beck is from a different Earth. And on this Earth, these things called the Eternals, the Immortals, I forgot what they are called. they are taking over the world with these various elemental powers. You could summon Captain Planet. Funny they mentioned the Power Rangers and Voltron, but not Captain Planet. But anyway, it's up to Quentin Beck and Spidey to save the day, much to Spidey's obvious reluctance, with his trip being screwed by S.H.I.E.L.D. and his plans to meet with Mary Jane and tell her how he feels constantly being complicated and falling apart.
Thank you for that. I'm going to talk about the goods. I did like the healthy amount of both action and I guess what some may call a slice of life in this movie. Both parts were very genuine, and the movie was definitely a lot of fun. What's his name? Who's the new Spider-Man now?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. He's definitely earned his way of being the new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's very believable. He has, very Peter Parker-like mannerisms. He also plays the part of the smart guy, and also he does very well as Spider-Man. And would you know it? He's English, or was he Australian?
No, he's English.
Okay, so yeah, that's why it's called acting.
Well, I think, in my mind, I was enamored with a lot of the CGI and a lot of the digital editing that was done. I thought a lot of that was really cool and provided me with some, visual entertainment and stimulus. I really enjoy those things. I also thought that, it's really nice when you have a different perspective from different cast members for roles that they're reappraising, right? So yes, to see many different Aunt Mays, it's a little different,
Gosh, it just keeps getting younger and younger.
and hotter. I mean, excuse me to say it, but and the many different renditions of even Spider-Man himself. Each one has brought something uniquely different to the role, and like Boss Braun said, this is no different. But I think for me, the standout really, not even so much as even the plot, not even so much as even the venue, because it was definitely not here. It was all over the world to a certain extent. It was definitely the CG for me.
All right. Go ahead.
I gotta give it to Jake Gyllenhaal. His acting was phenomenal in the movie. Maybe not so much the first part, but in the second part, he was very good. He's going to be compared to his contemporaries in the type of role he has. I'll also give credit to the true villain of this movie. My word. And this goes exactly along with what Blue is saying about the CGI. It was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted out of this villain. I mean, I've been hoping for years for Marvel to treat this character seriously, and look what happened. And I can tell you right now, I compare what this villain did to two villains for sure. The Green Goblin, and of course all the other goblins, which is, Spidey's bread and butter obligatory villain, and Arcade from the X-Men, because the way they restructured him, they made him pretty much in control of a giant playroom, really. And oh my gosh. And I loved the villain's motive, and, well, maybe not the motive. The motive was kind of weak, and the way he was framed was also kind of weak, but let's get to the bats. But how he planned it, it's something like the Ocean's movies, or the Great Train Robbery, or the Pink Panther. Just this ingenious plan. And in the end, not everything turns out okay for Peter and Spider-Man. It almost does. But ooh, it was so delicious. Also, I gotta give a good to Ned's actor. Ned keeps on shining in these movies. I watched the CinemaSins for Avengers Infinity War. He took a sin off because Ned said, we're all going to die, because Peter needed a distraction. But Ned saw this alien thing, alien circle, and he said, we're all going to die. And Jeremy pretty much nailed it. Ned is a national treasure, you know? So funny. I also liked him in Betty's Romance. Thought that was cute. The humor is on point in general, but that's a Marvel movie. Oh, and oh boy, did that ending. Those ending. So many surprises.
Maybe we should say that's a spoiler.
Yeah, there's so many surprises in those endings.
Yeah.
I won't go into detail, I promise. Also, action. The action was fan-flippin'-tastic. And, you know, I'm glad this is the first Spider-Man movie in the MCU that, from what I know about Spider-Man, from all the cartoons I've watched, from all the comics I've read or heard of, this felt that had that really, really screw you Peter Parker quality to it. The one that you're used to seeing with Spider-Man's life. This is the first one that really felt like it, you know? He's been through so much to begin with. And, you know, it's just like, it won't get easier from here. And that's the Spider-Man we know and love. Through all adversity, he's going to tackle these issues. And not to say that Civil War was easy, or Infinity War and Endgame were easy. Even facing the Vulture and losing Liz because of it was easy. This ain't going to be any harder. I mean, this ain't going to get any easier for him. And this movie is going to be the start of it. But it also showed Peter... Oh my gosh. He survived something. I won't say what, but it also shows him survive that thing, get back off his butt, get a little help from his friends, and turn it around and face the villain head on. That solidified my state on Tom Holland. Tom Holland was always good as Spider-Man. And I'm not going to say he's exactly better than Tobey Maguire, not like these other people. But dang, if he didn't prove his worth for the MCU in this film.
I remembered a few other things I like. I like the story overall. It was a very good story, especially when the true villain is revealed. And again, his reasonings. Backlash may not think it's the strongest, but in a demented sort of way, I can see his point. I can see his point way better than I see Thanos. I still can't believe some people out there said, you know, I think I believe Thanos. I mean, eliminating half of all things that live, that makes sense to me. I said, no, that doesn't make sense. That's crazy. But the true villain's reasoning for this one, I said, okay. If I was nuts, maybe. I could see why that could be a reason to do what I do. But yeah, the story overall was great. I enjoyed it. It's definitely a standard Marvel writing in a good way. When I say that, it is only in a good way. Now, I will definitely save one final thing I just remembered as a goods, is that they're doing a lot of future planning, future proofing for the Spider-Man series. I can see it. Certain characters are starting to stand out, and you know certain characters are going to be this, that, and the other. You know. But anyway, let's move on to the bads. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. Okay. Now, this movie, I have to say, in part, I will agree with Backlash about the villain role halfway through was really dry, really plastic for me. And I know the reason behind it. You'll have to see the movie because it weighs into the overall plot. But I found the first part of the movie, even though it was action-y, and some of those things were kind of like action-packed CG, and just for the fact that it was pretty good CG overall, I accepted it, but it didn't make any sense why these things were happening. I mean, right out of the gate, it just seemed like it was half-baked, and it just didn't make sense, and I thought, And then when this character comes in and does what he does to save the day, he just looked really corny to me. Didn't look at all like the Marvel image. I thought,
Well-
so for me, that aspect of it was kind of lame, kind of weak. But then, more of Peter and, him being young, you could clearly see where they were steering this movie clearly to teens. I mean, I think overall the whole the Avengers and, the whole Marvel universe has been something that the public has grown with the movies now, so that the average person probably watching it is in their 30s and 40s. Now they've scaled this back to appeal more to the teens, even though it's not losing any of the new people, but it certainly is more teeny bopper based. And I don't have a problem with that per se, but it just wasn't the cup of tea I would hope for from Spider-Man. And then the other part of that was, I do think as the villain, the central character that played the villain, probably the first 1/3 was kind of like milquetoast to me. It was like, Now the second half second half clear through the end, awesome. The villain came through and totally dynamic. Now again, seeing the whole movie, in perspective, I see why. Because he was actually an actor playing an acting role.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess in that regard, that explains it away. So yeah, that's my overall take of it. If you only got to see like 1/3 of the movie and it was the first third, you would really get a different feeling other than just sitting through the whole movie. So those are my only things.
Yeah, I'll say also that when it comes to the true villain, you can see that a mile away, like easily. Like you can close your eyes, put earmuffs on your ears, plug up your nose, close your mouth, and get locked in a box, and you can still see the true villain
Coming a mile away.
Yeah, like saying, "I'm evil."
Exactly. It's like, no, don't do it, don't do it.
Don't trust me. But like you said, this was written for teenagers, preteens, and there's nothing wrong with that. It in my opinion, it was a little slow in the beginning, a little like, young novelization of superhero, and I said, this is fine, but give me something to wake me up just a little bit. Starting to lose focus.
Yes.
Will he or won't he of Peter Parker? And I know Peter Parker. I know how this kind of works out, but But other than that, like you said, when it gets to the second part and the third part, it really does pick up where Spider-Man gets on the center stage, and the growing pains of being the next Iron Man, Tony Stark, shows up. That's when things get a little bit more interesting. And even though this is the bad sentence, I also have to give him credit for the globe trotting of the different places. You get to see those nice little venues that you don't get to see often in Marvel movies, more or less.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the only major gripes I have. I will save one other thing after the bads are concluded. It's not exactly good or bad. It's just my own personal take, and I'm just gonna say it just to get it out there, and then we'll move on to the rank.
Okay, before I start my bats, I do want to remind myself that this movie was defined by Iron Man in subtle ways and not so subtle ways. Consider this like a new beginning in the MCU. Okay? And Betty Brant more or less tell you that at first. Hint, hint. But also, you just gotta look at what happens in this movie. Connect the dots. See who's in this movie. Now, which actors are in this movie. See what Peter does. See what the villains do. See how everyone looks, And you think of Iron Man, it's pretty easy. Now, that's not a good or a bad. I just think it was kind of a nice little homage to what Tony Stark laid the groundwork for. Because this movie this movie was dedicated to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, who passed away not too long ago. Stan Lee, of course, Stan the Man, and then Steve Ditko, he was the artist who created Spider-Man. So, while that movie was dedicated to them, in universe, this movie was dedicated to Tony Stark, and it was a wonderful little tribute. But anyway, I agree with you guys. The first part of the movie, I was okay with it, but dang if it wasn't not long, not boring to sod, but just dry. Just run through the numbers. It took its time getting to where it needed to go. I think they wasted a little bit of potential with the side villains, these Eternals, I think they were called. Mm-hmm. They could have easily been Spider-Man villains, and I could have give you a name for each one of them. But to see how the main villain organized his whole operation, it really could have been those Spider-Man villains. I mean, dang nabbit. They even, lampshade, they even hint at a villain, a Spider-Man villain, that isn't appearing in the movie, but could have easily been one of the Eternals, I think, or Externals, or whatever they're calling them. So that was kind of a waste. And those guys, those villains, they were bland, flavorless. There's a reason. I won't say. I also liked Peter and MJ's Will They Won't They story. I liked Betty and Ned's little love fling story. I thought it was funny.
I did too.
And then it just felt like you have these two criminally underused characters. You have Marissa Tomei playing Peter's surprisingly now hot aunt. You have Jon Favreau, who's playing Happy Hogan still. Two criminally underused characters, and what do you do with them? You ship them too? Not that it's bad. And knowing the MCU, it might lead to something. But right now, it just feels kind of tacked on, just to get them more in the movie. It's like, okay, fine. And there was another thing. There was a little Chekhov's gun in this movie that, you know, it has nothing to do with the main plot per se, but it does a lot for the side characters. And if that MacGuffin, that Chekhov's gun wasn't happening, where you know, kind of, let's say like a little tracker. If that tracker, quote unquote, wasn't on, then it's just like, okay, that would have ended poorly. That was a little bit too contrived for my tastes. It's a little more than a nitpick for me, but not too much more. But it's just like, okay, how did you know where to go? Oh, well, that's right. And in fact, if you notice, how do I say this without saying anything? So the villain...
Don't worry, we can save it after the review. A small aftermath spoiler.
Yeah, but just so you know what I'm talking about. So the villain had their eyes set on killing a couple people. And they went after them. Sent their henchmen after them. And all of a sudden, you know, it's just like, well, okay, it's an A and B party. Why is C in here? It's coincidental that C is with A and B right now, okay? So this is like, But that's all the bads I have.
Okay. Well, before I get to the review, I just want to put this in my own personal editorial. Just a quick thing. As you know, people out there, if you know me, you know how I feel about palette swapping the legacy characters. I've been saying it for years, is that they should have just left Nick Fury alone and just made it him like the standard guy he was, which is just generally a white guy with an eye patch. They turned him into
the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah,
Nick Fury.
What's his name?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Thank you, Samuel L. Jackson with a eye patch. Good, better, and different. They did that, you know, because of, you know, grabbing more eyeballs, I'm gonna say. Well, they sort of went overdrive in this movie with all the palette swapping characters with Mary Jane and Flash. They're their own characters. They need to be represented correctly. And yes, I know they've done that in the 90s Spider-Man and possibly in the early aught Spider-Man. I didn't really watch those.
Spectacular Spider-Man, they definitely get in. In fact, Ned is Asian because of Spectacular Spider-Man, I believe.
Well, still, I'm not so, as the kids would say, butthurt about Ned so much. But definitely Flash and Mary Jane deserved a little bit more respect. Again, I'm going to keep bringing it up until it hits home. If Black Panther was turned into East German guy, blonde hair and all, people wouldn't be very tolerant of that, now would they? They would be quite upset. Everyone in this new Marvel universe deserves the same amount of respect, and keeping the legacy characters as they should. Otherwise, they could just put it towards anything and do whatever they want with it. And that's just what I'm going to say about that. Let that ruminate in your head. But anyway, let's get to the ratings. And I'm going to start first because even with my little commentary about the palette swapping of the established and legacy characters, I could easily ignore that. I mean, for all of MJ's what's the word for it?
Snarkiness?
Yeah, snarkiness. Passive? No. What do you call that?
Hard truth telling?
No. There's a passive aggressiveness. That's the word. Where she's basically Raven from Teen Titans. She went after during the third act. She actually turned into a normal person, and I said, okay, I'm good with that. And even though Flash Thompson was never really a Indian descent guy, in the movie he was definitely a good smarmy jerk. So I said, okay, I can live with one smarmy jerk character replacing an old style version of a jerk. Fine, I'm good with that. I can ignore that, and I can even ignore the small errors I had saying that this was kind of boring in the beginning and during some of the middle and all that, and even the Drew villain being super obvious. I can even ignore that, and I still would have given it a platinum pass. But the second ending of this movie, I will not ignore that. And as soon as everyone else gives their rating, I'll say what that ending was. So I just have to give this a standard ordinary pass. I'm sorry. It may seem nitpicky. It may seem even small and minor to people at home that I lower a rating because of that second ending. But dang it, if they just would have lined it just a little bit, it would have been fine. But no, twice they mess with me. I'm gonna knock down scores forever if they keep doing that. But that's the end of me until afterwards. Who's next?
Well, I definitely got to get this a platinum pass for affection. Let's start with your second ending thing. You see where you see Hulk smash, I see potential because I knew exactly where that setting, the last scene, the setting of that was, and I think I know what they're planning on doing, and that's going to be awesome if they do it. And I see the future. They showed us a little bit of it. It wasn't an important part of it. They made a joke about it. This is before the clip ended, but I see where they're planning on going with it. That being said, the first part was slow, yes. But man, oh man, did they make up for it. That villain was amazing. It was entertaining. He or she was entertaining. They made sure they wanted to use some of the same things that made the other Spider-Man movies great. They didn't want to follow the same...
Grapes?
Great. They didn't want to follow into the same exact tropes and use the Green Goblin. But I think who they did use was a perfect replacement because of all the chaos that was happening. All at once, it's like, oh, and it was so different from the Vulture too.
They're gonna turn Green Goblin into a Samoan.
Oh, brother.
Calling it.
But anyway, notice they haven't brought up any of the ancillary goblins yet. They haven't talked about Norman Osborn. They haven't talked about Harry Osborn yet. So we'll see when they get to it. But no more goblins for now because they know people got goblin overload. But the villain they picked, perfect replacement. The CGI and the fight scenes were perfect. Makes you question what was real and what wasn't, and it was so perfect. Also, this is where Peter, let's just say, maybe not go Super Saiyan, but gains like a Kaioken style attack, a little bit of a step up. And believe me, in the last movie, the last Spider-Man movie, he didn't need it to face off against a Vulture. If he didn't have this power, he probably wouldn't have won against this villain. And it was the perfect way. They hinted at through the movie that, okay, Peter has this power, and it finally came through for him. And even though they made a little joke about it, I thought it was so awesome because it really, that part really played well throughout the movie too. And I can see the potential through both endings and what they've set up. I see the potential for Spider-Man. And the last set of MCU went 10 years. I mean, you take away the Dawson casting because most of these guys are in their adults now, if not in their 20s or mid-20s already. These kids are in high school. We're going to grow up with these kids. Not just Peter and MJ and Ned, but Flash. Flash was a hero in the 616 universe eventually. You know, we get to see what these kids are going to turn into. If they're going to be supporting characters, fine. But this movie was not only a homage to Iron Man, but it's the future. And I the way I see it, it's going to be amazing. They left so many threads up in the air. Because even when the villain was defeated, it's not a true happy ending. It's a continuation. And I can't give anything else but a platinum pass. Because for what it was, as much as I loved seeing the Sandman in Spider-Man 3, as much as people laud and love Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, this was the best Spider-Man movie right now. And again, I won't give Tom Holland the I'm better than Tobey Maguire nod just yet, but dude stepped up into his role and they did a fantastic job. Imagine what they even teased what they could do in New York next time. I mean, they did New York with the first Spider-Man movie, Homecoming. But imagine if they took the production values and the new things at Peter's disposal and mixed it with these high energy battles in New York. It will be fantastic. It will be the best Spider-Man movie of all time. Right now, Far From Home takes it.
We'll continue the Spider-Man naming conventions. Spider-Man 3, Homebody.
Well, we'll figure out what they're gonna do. Yeah. Probably like Spider-Man buys a home. Spider-Man sends Aunt May to the home.
Oh wow, that was really bad for Aunt May. Sorry, Aunt May, we love you, but gotta go, girl.
Yeah, another palette swap. Aunt May's supposed to be an old lady now, not some.
And Aunt May has a love interest.
Yes.
Maybe.
Is that it? Yep. Backlash.
So did I give my bid yet? No, I didn't.
Nope, you're the last one.
I'm the last one. I'm not going to recant because it's like raining like crazy.
And thunder.
Okay, and saying that right on cue. Essentially, my gut feeling is overall, I think there were some definite highs in the movies, and unfortunately, there were some lows for me. So the most I can give it is a pass.
All right.
I really enjoyed the movie in the sense of seeing the CGI. I like the central character. Yes, I think that it's quite realistically to believe that they are setting the scene for future installations, and I can see a character coming forward that's going to be a nemesis in possibly future movies.
Oh yeah.
But I think all things being said, I still enjoyed it. I think you still could take everybody, go see it. But that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I recommend it. A pass is still very good.
It's still
so
very
yeah,
good.
it's a definitely good movie. If you like Marvel movies, definitely go see it. And before we end the show, time for the this is the theme song of the Aftermath segment. Does have some spoilers, so if you do not want to hear them, turn off this thing now. 3, 2, 1. The two endings. One of which is where Spider-Man gets framed by Mysterio as a villain who killed Mysterio, which did not happen. He killed himself.
And innocents. And don't forget the innocents.
Yes.
And attacked England. He killed him on his death. No, he framed him on his deathbed with the help of, I think, the freaking Tinker. I loved it.
Yep, it was a very good move on Mysterio's part. I mean, if you're not going to win, screw over the hero in the worst way possible.
Yeah,
And I love how he said,
I love it.
He set up the scene so perfectly. It's like, well, what if they see? I want them. They only see what I want them to see.
Mm-hmm. And that was a true actor on his deathbed. He just played them all. Well
played
done.
it to the hilt, and I thought that was ingenious. I did think that part was ingenious.
And even J. Jonah Jameson showed up to commentate, who was the legendary
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
He was in the Raimi movies, all three.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and before you're looking, you listen to your microphone and say, "You serious?" Yes, I'm serious.
But the thing that I look at is, as villains typically do, sometimes they do things just for spite. But the reality of it is, if you're dead, what's the point?
Exactly.
He's a martyr now. That's what's the point.
Yep.
He's a liar. That's about really all.
Exactly. But he did it in such a way
Style.
that was brilliant.
It was brilliant.
I don't think he was expecting
Gotta
to.
say.
I don't think he was expecting to die. Just frame Spider-Man.
I don't think he was expecting to die truly either. I think he was kind of plotting what happens if kind of thing.
I mean, he got caught up by his own avarice because Mysterio just he was warned by Edith that this is dangerous, and he was insane. He even lampshaded that Tony said he was insane, and he just proved it by saying, "Shoot him now." He could have won.
Right.
He could have won.
Or at least ran away.
Yeah.
Well, but villains typically are a little twisted
Of course they are.
and definitely self-absorbed.
90% of villains are crazy.
Along with there's two other villains I want to compare Mysterio to. I would compare him to the Green Goblin. I compared him to Green Goblin and to Arcade, but also to Joker only because of the performance nature of the character, and of course there's that Brokeback Mountain connection with Heath Ledger. But also Syndrome. This is exactly Syndrome's plot.
Syndrome, yes. Joker, no. He wasn't Joker crazy.
Yeah.
Joker's crazy. This guy was just,
Maniacal.
yeah, thank you.
He was
Maniacally
pointing
crazy.
guns at his whole cast.
So, Joker is straight up crazy. He will kill just some rando on the street just because. For no reason whatsoever. Just because he didn't, wear white after Labor Day or something.
Demented.
At least Mysterio would kill you to cover up his secret. He doesn't care about you or anything anywhere else. Otherwise, he would just have his his fake illusion monsters just kill everyone.
That was so sick and wrong. I couldn't believe it. They showed that news to it. It's just like, oh no.
So I'm getting to my final point with that second ending. The Skrulls came back, and once I saw them as Nick Fury and Maria Hill, I said, is it possible? Do I owe Backlash a Coke? Are they back? Are they evil? Are they going to try to take over the world? No! No, they're helping? Why are they the new S.H.I.E.L.D.? That doesn't make any sense.
They're not
Why?
S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, of course they're going to be the new S.H.I.E.L.D.
Their sword, remember?
Does it
Avengers Buddy's
matter?
heroes. The Damocles, the ship that they showed you on Captain Marvel. That's their sword now.
But why are they good guys? They're not supposed to be this way. They're supposed to be the new threat. If they would have just said, oh, well, our plan to make Spider-Man be the villain and Mysterio run rampant across the planet failed. Oh, well, let's try again. And they could have, had whoever they were talking to be a big mystery. Just fool stupid Captain Marvel, the idiot that she is. That would have been so great. But no, okay, I'll give it to you. If they're not the new Shield, they're the new Sword. But they shouldn't be. They should be the bad guys. I mean, clearly.
There were some Skrulls that were good, too. I always remember there's this Alaya the Laserfist, who was Johnny Storm's girlfriend at one point in the 90s comics. She was a Skrull,
One good Skrull.
Not just one, but there's more examples than that.
I
good
think
Skrull.
they are again doing this to appeal to the younger set. This is the animatronic doll that will be on sale at Christmas. This is that. Mm-hmm.
They're
I
ugly,
believe
though.
they
They're
are.
not like
I mean,
Thors.
that never stopped them from buying, Hulk and all these other green things. But I think that's where they're trying to give them some comedic value.
A little too comedic.
Well,
I knew Nick Fury wasn't going to be followed for all this stuff. He seemed off his game just a little bit today, and that's the reason why.
They did do a tell where he really got offended when Peter brought up Captain Marvel. He's like, you leave Captain Marvel out of your mouth.
No, I snorted when he said that and said, "Don't invoke her name like she's somebody. She is nothing. Like she's some deity or something. Give me a break."
I thought that too, a little bit much. But even with that being said, I think overall we're looking at that ending at the very end after they called him and he was looking like he was at the beach and chilling, and then he gets up and then the screen just disappears and everybody was saying, "What?" Well, it dawned
All
on
of
me.
them Skrulls, none of them were humans.
Well, not just that, but the idea, they're like, well, it seems like it's kind of stupid to even have that at the very ending of it. What's that about? Dawned on me after I left the theater what it is about, and since this is a spoiler, it was kind of like a cheat. Now that they have conquered Mysterio, they have his technology to do the whole virtualization thing anytime they want. And it's ironic because it almost is a similar technology to the way the technology was in Wakanda, with the whole looking out at something that appears there but really not there. So I think there's something there, that's why they presented it, let you know, forward moving. What you might see might not be what's really happening at all.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Teaser.
I know they're heading for Sword. I know they're heading for Sword because why would they even sell the space station even if Nick Fury look for stupid slippers?
Look, all I'm saying is the Skrulls should be the bad guys. And yes, if there are good Skrulls, that's fine. But you need a threat. If Skrulls are not the threat now, who are they gonna fight? There was always Thanos in the background. But we don't got nothing now.
We got Galactus.
No, we don't have Galactus.
We might.
You might, but nothing confirmed.
Alright, now
so until then, we got nothing in the air. And that, my friends at home, that's why I had to knock down the score. Because that was such wasted potential. Even with the potential that Backlash sees, doesn't make up for the fact that they had potential right there.
Wasted.
And but I will give you credit, Backlash. You were right. They did come back.
I knew they would.
I didn't think they were going to, but they did.
Oh yeah.
So good job, Backlash, once again earning that informational emperor title.
I got a gold star.
Gold star.
Speaking of other things that are
You might
gonna,
get a golden umbrella.
Yeah. So let's quick fix.
You mentioned about Brad. You remember Brad? Aged up 5 years where everyone else came back from the blip.
Yes.
He got royally screwed over so bad in this movie just to set it up. Basically what happens is S.H.I.E.L.D. created a new customer for Spider-Man. So, okay, Spider-Man made excuses on why he couldn't join Fury, or for what we thought was Fury's little mission at first. It's like, oh gee, the teachers will miss me. And I don't want to be I don't want to be out of Spider-Man over here. People will know that I'm Spider-Man. My classmates will know. So they said, "Durr, okay," and behind his back took care of all those issues. One of which was giving him a new Venom costume, black costume, Venom costume inspired a spy Spider-Man suit. And he was in there with a woman, a forceful shield woman, or so I think, maybe a shield woman, maybe another Skrull, who knows, that told him to take off his pants to try on the costume.
Which, by the way, she had to be an alien too. No human woman is going to ask a minor to take off all their clothes right in front of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Suit or no suit.
so Brad popped in.
So what was that really for? Because they could have actually gave him the suit and just she could have
Yeah,
walked
but she
out.
was an alien. She didn't know any better.
She didn't even care.
So,
Okay.
so basically, Brad popped in, sees all this, thinks that Peter's cheating on MJ, and he was going to tell her, but he wanted to show him the picture first. Peter uses Edith, Tony's newest AI, stands for "Even Dead, I'm the hero." Haha, Tony. To erase the picture. I won't spoil too much about that scene in general because you have to see it. It's funny. So he comes out looking like a liar, and then basically he starts to figure out that Peter is acting strangely. Things are happening strangely around him, and it's around this time MJ finds out Peter's secret and that he's Spider-Man. So Peter and Ned cover for, MJ and Ned cover for Peter as he's fighting Mysterio. And now Brad looks like a perv, taking pictures of people in the alleged bathroom, and makes him look like a liar, a lunatic. And for all intents and purposes, he was this kid who was 5 years younger than Peter and MJ before the snap decimation blip, who probably looked up to Peter. And then you have this guy just ruin his life, him and MJ, and to a lesser extent Ned, ruin his life like that. And now he knows Peter is Spider-Man, so he's going to be vindicated. And you were saying, to wrap it all up, Bronze, that he could be Venom.
Well, to be fair, he doesn't know he's Spider-Man yet.
He will.
He just thinks it's weird. But like you said, yes, he's going to be the new Eddie Brock, because so far, even though he's just a high schooler, still, that's more than enough motivation for him to begin with. And whatever movie he's going to show up next, probably bad stuff's going to happen to them. Then, oops, symbiote, and then bam, Venom.
Yeah, so it's just like, that poor kid. He really does not deserve all the stuff that happened to him. He was trying to be a good guy, but because he didn't know one of his classmates was a superhero, and he got messed up. His reputation's been besmirched, and he seems like the guy who's going to keep pushing this.
To be fair, though, I wouldn't say he was a good guy. I think he was just competing for MJ. Yeah, he doesn't really deserve all the humiliation that's going to befall him. And again, it should be Eddie Brock, but this is the new inclusive Spider-Man series, so I'm just going to ignore it.
Well, here's the thing. They used Eddie Brock for the Sony's Venom movie, so they can't use him there.
No, come on. It's not even the same universe.
It is.
It is not.
It's on the fringes because Sony owns both movies.
But Marvel has rights to this, whatever this is. And didn't Sony create their own Spider-Man universe already?
Well, they came into an agreement with Disney to make the Tom Holland movies.
Yeah, but they didn't include Venom.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Sony owns both Venom and Spider-Man.
All right. If the Tom Holland's Venom shows up in the Spider-Man, the new Marvel Spider-Mans, I owe you a Coke.
Nope, Tom Hardy doesn't need them there. Just the symbiote. If the symbiote is on Earth right now, if that appears and he becomes Venom, that could happen.
But if they're owned by the same two companies, then it can't be like the same symbiote. If it's a different symbiote, then how about that?
Okay, I'm down.
Deal.
I hope it's not Carnage. That would be terrible.
Carnage is a freak show. No one likes Carnage.
All right.
If it's Venom, then you have to submit to me that the Tom Hardy symbiote, like Venom, is not the same Venom in the universe.
Yep. And one last thing before we wrap up.
Real quick.
Okay, so there's definitely a lot of homage to Iron Man. They showed the scene with Tony Stark built us in a cave with a box of scraps. The Tinker was in that scene with Jeff Daniels. Happy was back. Nick Fury was back there, both in the Iron Man movie. You have this genius who was kidnapped, makes a new suit, and there's a lot of beats to Iron Man. Back in Black was playing. They're trying to give people that nostalgia push, and I love that. Okay.
Okay, well, this is the one John the Gamer Boss Bronze.
And the Inspirational Emperor True Backlash.
And the First Lady of Media, Blue.
Sorry for running so late here, but hey, we wanted to get all our thoughts and feelings out in the open to have a better discussion about things that are awesome. But anyway, till next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.